welcome back. We're talking about impeachment inside out, upside down, and I get kind of sick of it after a while. If we can't find the lighter side of this for a minute, we gotta change gears. When you want to change gears and you got to kick it up a notch, you bring in David Grasso. He's the host of Bold Business on the digital television network. Very original show on Bold TV. And you're also the media director for Gen FKD.
Correct.
Which is a financial literacy nonprofit.
Talk about money.
Talking about money.
And young people, which we don't have a lot of money,
Right. So talking about money, I am predicting that because there is some positive news coming out of the China trade talks, or at least the perception of that the market will hit 30,000 by year end, which will be good for many people's portfolios.
Of course.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the whole China trade story overall?
So here's the thing. When you don't have a solid trade relationship, it unnerves the markets. And I'm surprised that the markets didn't go further down considering all the uncertainty, not just with China, but with the European Union, with Mexico and Canada, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's really important to have certainty in the markets. On the other hand, it's important to go after China for their unfair trade practices. And that is a really difficult balance to strike. We
know about on the highest of levels, the Chinese government has this Huawei company that puts in the 5G networks. Now we're hearing about this TikTok app that comes out of China, has facial recognition. I mean, Donald Trump's the first person to draw the line in the sand and say, yo, hold on a minute here. You're ripping us off on intellectual property. You're ripping us off on trade. You're devaluing your currency. This is a good sign. As much as the left wants us to think this is terrible, we got to stand up to these people, or we're going to be sheep at some point.
Well, here's the thing. There is pain to be had, and I think the administration hasn't been forthcoming in the fact that it does cause economic damage, especially to farmers, the agricultural community, et cetera, et cetera. But as Donald Trump said when I went to the White House, he claims we've been losing the trade war for 20 years, so the pain has already been had. There is a substantial and a rational basis for a trade war with China, but we cannot pretend that it doesn't cause significant economic damage, not just to Americans, but to Chinese people and people around the globe. But yes, these are long-standing issues that previous administrations have ignored, and I believe that the needle has moved to such an extent that even if a Democratic president comes into power in 2020, they'll continue to go after China, and it's largely because of Donald Trump.
So, David, last week the president announced he's putting a hold on the tariffs that were supposed to be enacted this week on China. That's not standing up to China at all. That's caving into China on their word that they're going to buy some more American agricultural products. So, I mean, I agree with John that we should stand up to China, but that's not what the president's done. He's totally bent over.
And this is the problem with a lot of this type of stuff. I'm a free trader, so I'm very skeptical of the government getting involved in trade.
But how do you have free trade with a country that's paying their workers 6 cents an hour, letting them pollute like crazy, and forcing them to compete with American workers?
I never said that they were playing by the rules.
You got to level the playing field to have free trade.
In fact, you're just making the case for your friend over here that Donald Trump and the government needs to get involved to have a fair and free trade. And in fact, this is where it gets weird. This is a talking point from the left, not the right. If a regular Republican president were in power, they would have done nothing about China.
I consider myself a liberal, and I think that Donald Trump is one of the most progressive presidents in the last 4 decades. I mean, criminal justice reform, trade, putting an end to endless foreign wars, reining in prescription drug prices. To me, I mean, this is the kind of president.
Well, he's a populist. Those are all popular proposals.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
but they sound liberal. I mean,
no, they do sound liberal.
Traditional liberal, not like a
Mike
Bloomberg.
If I'm going to be completely forthcoming here, and I don't know what side this puts me on, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement makes me uncomfortable because the government's telling the auto companies what to pay their workers. And to me, that's completely inappropriate. Of course, the left and the unions like it, but the Republicans don't like it, but the president promoted it. And this is where it gets all over the place. Donald Trump is not someone from the right. He's not someone from the left. He is who he is.
Right. So let's talk about the USMCA. What exactly, based on what's been negotiated now and what the House is poised to agree to, and with the Senate, we don't know where they're going to be on it. What are the key differences between NAFTA as negotiated 25 years ago and this NAFTA 2.0 USMCA?
It's a lot more labor friendly. So what they've done is they've increased wages for Americans and for Mexicans and Canadians for that matter. They want to stimulate auto manufacturing. Unfortunately, most studies show that while more cars will be made here and more American jobs will be added, the cost of the average car will go up and will actually cause a net economic loss. And this is where I get uncomfortable. It's a great idea to support auto workers. It's a great idea to support American industry. But like Republicans get right all the time, when the government gets involved in deciding what markets should do, there's usually a lot of economic damage just to prove a talking point.
Anything the government, anytime the government tries to get into private enterprise, it's like
distortionary.
The worst disaster. I'd call it something worse, but it's in the prohibited words by the FCC. But it's a disaster, and they should stay out of it. But in this instance, as much as you say, hey, you don't want, it's going to cost the price of cars to go up a little bit. By kind of warranting them to pay people a little more, it's almost like union breaking to some extent, because you don't usually get to tell the union what to do.
Well, this was all done with the blessing of the United Auto Workers. But to answer your question, this is 90% similar to NAFTA, with a few things for auto workers. Unfortunately, I don't think it solves a lot of our problems. The modern world, the modern economy, if we're really talking about our China relationship, we're not mad that they're making this pen in China. We're mad that they're stealing our intellectual property. We're mad at human rights. Those are the issues that we should be talking about. And I feel like with NAFTA and the USMCA, it was the same thing. We're dealing with auto workers and agriculture, and that's all great, but that's not the economy of the future. The economy of the future is technology, knowledge, a lot of the things that we already do great.
I'm just looking at the back of this. I use this thing every day, but you're right.
Of course.
My Trump pen is made in China.
Of course it is.
I can't, of course. Everything
because
you should have to pay a tariff on that.
Yeah.
I want 25%.
I got to go down the street to the bodega where I got it and give them another $1 for the tariff on it. But, hey, Dave Grasso, thanks so much for joining us.
Always a
great,
pleasure.
always great commentary. You got to check out Bold TV's Bold Business. Another perspective on what's happening out there. A little lighter take, and I'm talking to the younger people a little bit, not like us old geezers here, or at least myself. Frankie's quite young, but thanks a lot, Dave. Appreciate you coming here. Stay right there. We're going to take a quick break, and I think my brother Derek is going to be doing his thing as the man on the street, talking about the news of the day right after this.